So this is the second MVP race video for me this season, I believe. I will talk about Luka and his crazy game against the Knicks and a bunch of other guys, but real quick, just with Steph. So he's hurt right now. Yes, the Warriors have things to figure out between their lineups, their defense. I think they need to make at least one move, but let's not forget about Steph because he's been amazing. And also shout out to SGA, whose numbers are pretty comparable to a lot of these candidates. Ja Morant, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Zion, having great seasons, but it's a tough group to get in. Given what Luka just did against the Knicks, I think you got to start there. And, that last minute was obscene, right? Like, he has the turnaround over Grimes. He has the offensive rebound. He has a post move getting around Grimes, finish overing him. And then off the free throw that somehow it ends up in his hands, and then he does that little flip shot. Spencer Dinwiddie also had a 3-ball off of an inbound in that last minute. We'll give him that. But moving beyond just that and big picture stuff for Luka here, the most noticeable thing when the season began was just how much more in the post Luka was. I think you saw that a bit in their recent Laker game where he had like a couple turnarounds over Pat Bev. He had, I want to say, at least a few possessions where he was going at Russ in the post. I think the Mavs have also helped him out with this by like having guards screen for him, which sometimes forces a switch. I remember in the Knicks game, there was, I think, a play where they ran like a Spain pick and roll, so it kind of forced Quickly to be the help guy with Luka coming to the basket, which means, Quickly did what he could, but he just couldn't really do much. The floater has been there if bigs are dropping on him on screens. If, let's say, Julius Randle's switching onto him, he'll go to the step back three like it was in that Knicks game. I also want to give a shout out to Tim Hardaway Jr. for getting Luka one of his rare catch and shoot threes late in that Houston game. And then, of course, the guy's going to make the right pass every time. But I do want to reiterate, I do think the way that the Mavs are having guys who are not just bigs screen for Luka is making his day a little bit easier, even if he was still going to be amazing otherwise. And even with as good as Luka's been, there's still competition for this award. Now, I will say, I wanted to mention Luka first just because he just had the insane game. But the order I'm mentioning, guys, is not some, ranking. It's just, I got to talk about him in some order, right? So let's go to Jokic. I remember last season, the Nuggets, I don't know if that was the start of it, but it did seem a little more noticeable, at least to me, that there were some more off-ball actions run for Jokic, where maybe he'll be running along the baseline, which can then get him into a position for a post-up or whatever. I think there have been a few more, actions where he starts from the corner this year, or at least lately. So that's kind of nice. He did that against the Kings a few times, once on Alex Len, once on Rashawn Holmes. That's cool. Of course, you're going to get your post-ups and your turnarounds and your hook shots and just your Jokic existing things in the offense, which is any sort of two-man action you want to run with Jamal Murray or cuts with MPJ off of him and all that. But the most noticeable thing for Jokic this year to me is that he's just leaning even more into the I don't really feel like shooting jump shots thing. Now I know, against the Suns, he made a bunch of turnarounds and mid-rangers and a few threes and all that, but for the most part, his mid-range and stuff, that's all been dipping down. A couple years ago, he was at about 3 mid-rangers a game. This year, he's shooting less than 2 a game. His three-pointers are down, and what you're seeing more of is, in the Blazers game, there was one play where he pump fakes on Nurkic, and then he just takes him off the dribble, beats him in a line drive, gets to the rim. In the Hornets game, there was one he's bringing it up court, and Mason Plumlee is, not totally all the way up there. And so, again, he just goes as full speed as Jokic can with the ball, and then it's just this 7-foot dude who weighs however much he weighs. And it's just yeah, you going to stand in front of that? I think it's also the subtle thing of, a lot of the time when Jokic screens, he does it within the three-point line, which I think just makes it easier to do your action around the rim. And, he will still end up shooting his, crazy hook shots from, 9 feet away from the basket. They've also had guards screen for him sometimes, on little down screens, and then sometimes, both defenders will kind of get terrified of Jokic, so it can create something easy for KCP, let's say, or whatever. So that's all good. Of course, with Jokic, the other thing as well, would they actually give him a third in a row, because the entire conversation around voter fatigue and all that, and the precedence of the MVP award, and I don't know where that's going to end up. We're still in December. Let's just keep it about the basketball for now. Now let's go to Joel Embiid. So the interesting thing with the Sixers offense is that there have been more moments recently, and I do want to do a video on the Sixers at some point here, but there's more possessions where they just hurry up, for lack of a better description, where it'll be hey, let's just move the ball up faster in half court and let's start our Harden Embiid screen action with 19 on the clock as opposed to 11, let's say. They've even had some possessions where even off of a make, they'll go quickly, and Embiid sometimes will get a hit-ahead pass from Harden, and there's 20 seconds on the clock, and he's just in a one-on-one at the basket. That was the type of thing that I was talking about earlier in the season, where it was man, they're just not doing themselves a lot of favors sometimes. Well, they've been doing it more recently. There's also been some Embiid Harden handoff actions where there's a little more assertiveness where like Joel will dribble to Harden and then get it, and then he'll just kind of fly off the screen and Harden's coming around fast, and it's just like, okay, this is the zip that we wanted out of the Sixers offense. And then, of course, you just got Joel with his face-up mid-rangers and the pick and pops and just being a force in the post and all that. Ever since DeAnthony Melton entered the starting lineup because Maxey was hurt, their defense has been way better. Of course, Joel's part of that as well. So yeah, Philly and Joel are looking good. They did lose to the Wizards, but I mean, they had to lose eventually. They won, 8 in a row, whatever it was. Let's go to KD. So I did the Nets video recently, and I don't want to just repeat everything I said there, but I would say that there is a pretty good balance right now between some sort of off-ball action for KD, even if it's just going to be like one simple screen just to get him a little bit of momentum. There's going to be times where KD is screening for Kyrie, let's say. That's nice. And then besides that, man, it's just let KD go to work. And I would love to have a list of the best mid-range shooting seasons of all time. DeMar DeRozan is shooting 49% on 9 mid-rangers a game. Very impressive. KD is at 57% on 7 a game. Like, it's just unreal. For a long time, CP was the, wait a minute, what is he shooting for mid-range right now, guy? And I guess it's KD now. As for the rest of it, I mean, look, the Nets switching defense has been awesome. KD's been part of that. So yeah, now let's get to the most important person in my life, Jason Tatum. So the Celtics have won 3 in a row since their what the hell is going on run. And, like in the Bucks game, there were some plays where Tatum was basically like, okay, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, where are you guys? Let me just set a screen for you, get the switch, go from there. He had like a tough mid-range over Brook. Like the tough shot making was really there against the Bucks. He had like I'm doing nothing, I'm just going to shoot a 3 over Giannis that went in. But against the Rockets, there were like more plays where it was like some more of the off-ball action. There was like a cut when Jalen was screening for him. There was an action on the other side of the floor. So I was like, ooh, nice, the double actions that I was hoping they would get back to. I think the biggest thing with Tatum this season is the foul drawing. I mean, he's up to 8.5 free throw attempts per game. And I think the biggest things there are still that, of course, he's gotten stronger since he showed up in the NBA, as you would expect. His handle has improved. I think the better spacing they've had this year have just given him more driving lanes on top of, again, sprinkling in some more off-ball actions for him, like the screening on ball and just random down screens they'll set for him and all that. But I think it's been interesting to see his foul drawing away from the basket. And it does seem like he's beginning to master the I'm driving, this guy's arm is right here. If I go up with the shot right now, I'm going to hit him and I'm going to get a foul. I don't know what the name for that would be, but just that sort of thing. And also he dunked on Giannis. And now we can get to Giannis for the last one, who I still think, if you're just saying best player in the league, I do think Giannis is still number 1. And in some ways, I'm like searching for something new to say about Giannis, any sort of noticeable adjustments lately with the Bucks offense and him, and there kind of isn't one. He's just continuing to be him. I mean, I guess the only thing I would ever say is like, just don't take too many jump shots because you're unstoppable going to the rim, even if I know your like turnaround on the baseline looks good when it drops and all that. So yeah, but besides that, just looking at the Bucks overall right now, of course, Middleton has played 7 games. He's missed the last 5. And Budenholzer had a not encouraging quote recently about Middleton's health. Their role players have had trouble shooting recently. They've also been getting torched from 3 over the last couple of weeks. I'm choosing to not be that concerned. Now, if we're in like March and Middleton's still not going, then at that point, okay. This became a Bucks commentary at the end. But yeah, the MVP race, it's pretty good right now.